You take a break from makeup news for 3 weeks and absolute chaos ensues. Tarte as per usual doing very questionable marketing choices, but it seems to work for them. Marsté's pre-sales from this winter still have not been delivered and is apparently delayed for another couple of months. We need to talk about this, and we also need to talk about how the new EU regulations about packaging is kind of pushing small brands, not just makeup, totally off the market. Welcome to another new makeup releases. We're gonna chat about the new makeup that's been released, announced, and sneak peek. I'm also gonna talk about some industry news. I haven't been doing this for like 3 weeks, and I'm actually filming this on a Wednesday because I do have some family coming in to visit me tomorrow, Thursday. So if I miss something that is happening very close to as you're watching this video, don't worry, I'll talk about it next time, but we do have quite a few things to go into. I did not really do my makeup today. I'm literally just wearing blush for freckles and the Nomad, the lipstick. We're gonna talk about this collection as well. I will say, lipstick is a little patchy. Letting you know, comfortable, a little patchy. But let me scoochie to the side, somewhat. So that we can put some stuff here. Let's start talking about the new EU regulation that's just come into play, because I think that this has, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I've seen some, I think it's our fault, like indie brands. I own an indie brand, I own Snatch Beauty. We also did do a pause to the EU, shipping to the EU right now because of the new regulations that have come into play. And I honestly, for me, I know the reason for indie brands, because again, I talked to some of the owners behind the scenes. I know the reasons for why people choose to pause or not to pause has been different for everyone. For me, I know the reason is that my lawyer is not done looking into whether or not this would be worth pursuing for me. So I took a break, put a little pause on it while I look at my different options. So this new law is basically about packaging, not only packaging of the makeup, but also packaging that it is being shipped into. Not only like the packaging, like the packaging peanuts or the bubble wrap or whatever people use, also the packaging, like the cardboard packaging around the actual product. So it's all the packaging they're in. And to make a long story very short, the reason why a lot of brands are choosing to pause this is because usually with the EU, I usually think that a lot of these regulations make sense. If you didn't know, I used to work with EU regulation for 8+ years before I started doing social media full time. So I'm fairly well acquainted with how an EU regulation, laws and regulations are structured. This one is a little bit weird because for me, this seems rushed. Because the reason why a lot of people are taking a break from it is that you have to register your brand. Every country you want to send packages to, you have to register in that country, which is a little weird for the EU that they're not deciding on like one registration for the whole of EU. Because again, if I have to do registrations for all of the EU countries, that is a lot of countries, and some of them have registration fees that are like 1,000 euros for one country. And then imagine doing that for all of them, and then you have to keep the registration going. Some of them I think you have to pay for yearly. You have to send all of these places information, and it's just too much money and too much paperwork for a small brand, especially like for Cinch. We send packages to basically every EU country and also other countries that are not part of the EU. Someone was asking me, do I still ship to the UK? Yes, we do still ship to the UK. The UK is not part of the EU, and it's also not part of the EEA, which is like the trade agreement. Norway is not part of the EU, but they're part of the trade agreement, so we're no longer able to send to Norway. So it does put a spanner in the works for a lot of small indie brands, because the profit that we would make sending to some of these countries are just not covering the registration fees, so therefore we are no longer able to ship to those countries. Right now this law is they put it live, it's going right now, that's why we're having a little bit of a break, but they are going to reevaluate it again in October, and they are taking feedback. So I will leave a link down below to where you can leave feedback, and there's also a petition that you can sign, and I will roll Teresa's clip. There is a lot of lobbying behind this decision. They're saying it's to stop places like Temu or Shein for shipping, but money is not going to stop them. This is just going to stop smaller indie brands, and that's what the big conglomerates like, Sephora, that's what they want. They they want to be the only actor on the market. And I honestly don't think if EU actually, looks into the critique for this law, I don't think that they want a monopoly from bigger brands like Sephora or Amazon or anything. I do think they actually do want, a little bit more of a freer market.
I thought to myself, do you know what? I want to kind of dig into this a little bit deeper, because one of the things about the EU is there is specific legislation that outlines that they need to make it clear who is lobbying them and what are the financial incentives at play here. This is a little pie chart that says who has been lobbying the European Commission, and I love a little pie chart. I mean, they're very, very informative. Look at that. Companies and groups are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, lobbyists when it comes to the European Commission, right? So maybe we're onto something here. They've also noted which portfolios have attracted the most meetings, subsequently which types of organisations have had the most face time with policymakers responsible for them, and you'll notice one of the biggest ones is the European Green Deal. Now, one of the biggest things that has been impacting indie brands over the last while has been to do with this packaging, and that they're, by the way, trying to make it more sustainable, etc. That is part of the European Green Deal, right? And we have these companies specifically lobbying for that. Now, the problem that we currently face is that, yes, we can see who's lobbying and vaguely what's happening, but they're not telling us what's happening in the meetings. We are not there in the room where it happens, as Hamilton might say. So all we can do is kind of guess. But there is another website, and I will have everything linked down below in the description box. You know the drill, guys. I want everyone to fact check, think a little bit more critically, right? If you go onto lobbyfacts.eu, you can enter in to see who the biggest lobbyists are. Now, you won't be surprised if you go in and you're doing this in your own time. You'll notice that Facebook, Meta, Google, Apple, they're in the top 10 when it comes to lobbying the EU. And then we're like, why is the European Union on fire, both literally and metaphorically? That, my friends, is why. But we're talking about makeup, so let's get into that portion, right? When you get onto the third page, if you go all the way down, you might notice, it's not all the way down, it's on 31. You might notice one company, LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy. Now, that name is a big conglomerate. They own a whole bunch of brands, including Dior and Sephora. And if you look over there, how much have they spent on lobbying? 2 million. They have it so that they're doing so much lobbying that they have 5.7 full-time lobbyists. Right, that's how much they're doing it. And they have met with the European Commission 64 times. And I truly believe that those bigger corporations have been doing this because they realise that these brands are actually a threat to them. The indie population, the indie beauty population, and just indie businesses in general have been taking up more of the market. And this is where I also want to remind you, monopoly. That's a crime, right? That's why I find it very funny that we made it into a board game, but monopolizing any particular asset or resource is crime, because then it means that people can charge whatever they feel like.
If you didn't know, my degree is in environmental science. This law is meant to be to save the environment and, do better and more environmentally friendly packaging, and to offset some of the costs to deal with the packaging and the packaging material to the people who made the packaging. Honestly, not a bad idea, but they made it way too expensive and way too complicated. And I do think they should make some exceptions for smaller brands. If they really want to stop brands like Shein and Temu, they could have just said if you ship this many packages to an EU country each year, then you have to register. That would have just eliminated all of the smaller brands. And like I said, they do take some feedback right now, and there's a petition to sign. So I do suggest, some people said, just get a warehouse in the EU. That won't help because I can only sell in the country that even if you're inside of the EU, you still have to register, from what I have understood. And this is again what I'm having my lawyer look into. Even if I have a warehouse here in Italy, I live in Italy, I think I still have to register with all of the other countries. So it won't really help. And it's just very frustrating for all companies. Right now, my brand is available at Monolith. So if you are living in the EU, you can purchase my products at Monolith. So definitely check them out. They are an official retailer of my brand, and they did just do a big restock of the products that they had sold out. I know some indie brands have done like we did, took a break. I know some brands have registered with some countries and started the process with some of the countries that makes the most orders. Usually that is like France, Germany. And I also know that some indie brands are just like, we're just gonna do nothing. We're gonna see if packages get sent back. So I didn't want that for me, because I feel like it's such an inconvenience for you if your package does end up being sent back. So that's why I put a break on it, and I'm gonna redirect you to Monolith instead. But yeah, it is a very tricky situation, and I do hope that they will make some changes to this in October. So that's what I'm waiting for. But if you're living in the EU and you're like, oh dang, I won't be able to get any of my indie brands anymore, please sign the petition. Please send in some suggestions to your EU legislation representatives in your country. This is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to represent you and your interests. Definitely don't be afraid to speak up if the EU is doing something that you don't feel is in the interest of you or the EU. But yeah, I'm hoping to see some changes to this soon. Who knows? I wanted to talk a little bit about the marketing from Tarte and this TikTok that's been going around from Maria Helene Roux, I think that's her name, and how she felt when she opened this PR packaging from Tarte. She doesn't name the brand here, but we all know it's Tarte. Tarte just released a contour, like a slim contour stick. Remember when I told you that contour was coming back? I was not kidding. Everybody's releasing contours right now. And I don't think a contour stick like this is a bad idea, but the marketing around this has been questionable, to say the least.
When did cosmetic surgeries and enhancement become so commonplace that it's almost assumed as though every woman wants them? This is a question that I've really been pondering since receiving, honestly, a fairly disturbing PR package. I will show you this package. I think you're going to be rather shocked by it. I am not going to name the brand. However, I just want to have a broader discussion on aging and beauty standards in America right now, because I think it is getting completely out of hand. So I was having a bit of an off self-esteem day, as I'm sure many women can relate to, and I received this PR package. I'm just going to show you part of it. Outside in the box had these scissors and blades and needles. That alone was already somewhat disturbing imagery, but then I opened it up. My heart sinks just talking about it. Honestly, it was just really shocking to see. To a photo of myself taken from a screenshot from my Instagram, a photo that I thought that I looked pretty in. I was trying really hard to be confident this day. So they took this screenshot from my Instagram and they drew on it places that I could be more snatched using their product. However, as you can see, it's drawn on with a dotted line, and because there was blade and needle imagery on the packaging, it's insinuating that this is like where a surgeon would cut, or where a surgeon could cut if they were gonna redo my face. Okay, a photo of me made it incredibly personal. And it also came, again, I'm not going to show this, with a list. You're just going to have to trust me on this. It says prescription treatment plan, upper bleph, rhinoplasty, jaw lift, Botox. So obviously I need all these surgeries, but guess what? Oh yay, I don't need the surgeries. I just need this brand's product. And it's going to replace all those surgeries that, of course, I need right here, right where they drew on the dotted line. Am I the only one that finds this disturbing? I had to ask myself, like, is this cute and cheeky and clever and I'm too sensitive? However, I showed it to my husband, my best friend, some of my other creator friends, and they all found it to be incredibly disturbing.
This is not really off-brand for Tarte. Tarte has been doing this kind of marketing for a long time. They're looking for the shock factor. They're looking for you to react to this. And Tarte's CEO actually said in an interview that this stick got so much attention at launch, negative and positive, that they actually sold out like way more of the sticks at initial launch than they thought. And we can say whatever we want about these kind of shock value marketing. I personally, I see a lot of people defending this and being like, oh, it isn't that big of a deal, it's just a little bit cheeky. But the further we push the needle, the less we care. We no longer care about things that we used to care about. If a brand told an influencer in 2015 with marketing and a picture with them saying, this is things with your face that you should fix, like, people would burn the brand to the ground. And here in 2026, people are out here defending Tarte, saying like, it was just like a cute, funny little joke. And I feel like we're getting insensitized to all of this. I don't know what happened. And it's making me feel that a lot of things are going on social media right now. I don't know if people understand how it's making you lose empathy. Because it doesn't matter if you thought it was funny. She didn't. You don't need to defend Tarte. Tarte is not a person. Tarte is a brand. The brand does not care about you. The brand is not a person. The brand is not your friend. You don't need to be defending Tarte. They're literally making so much money through this like just shock value marketing. They're just trying to get you riled up, and it works. It works. And the more attention we give to them, the more they sell. And when did marketing become this? I feel like such a grandma, because I'm just like, I don't want this. I don't want this kind of marketing. And I'm wondering what's next. Like, they literally went around with like a remade ambulance, doing like the glambulance, redoing people in like, come into the glambulance so we can do like your contour and snatch you. And it's like, from someone who's been in an ambulance, who was so close to dying that I really don't even remember what happened in the ambulance, this isn't fun. Like, I don't want to go back in an ambulance. And even in the US, where it costs thousands of dollars if you end up being in a situation where you have to be in an ambulance, I just feel like we're cosplaying tragedy, and I'm not loving it. And I do wish we'd be a little bit more upset about things like this, just to bring back sensible marketing. You know, we don't need this shock value. Any PR is good PR, because I don't get it. Again, I feel like such a grandma. Can we talk about the Marsté pre-order? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we talked about the Marsté eyeshadow palettes that were being released. I was reached out by Marsté, and this was before I moved. So now I'm like, when was this? And they said they were gonna send this to me, and I said, sure, but yeah, this was before I moved, because I was like, just so you know, I'm gonna be in Europe when this one is being released. And they were like, absolutely no problem, we'll send it to you in Europe. And then they reached out to me again, and they were like, actually, we're not able to ship to Europe. Again, now with the new regulation, they most definitely are not. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you said you were, and now you weren't. I'm just confused. So are you not shipping to the EU? Because again, that also matters on how I like report on things. And they're like, no, we're not going to be able to ship to the EU, which is fine. So I was just like, okay, then I won't be able to receive the PR. Best of luck with your launch. And I didn't think about this at all, like at all. But now that I think back of it, I probably should have been like, why is nobody talking about these new releases? And it's because nobody got them.
Well, this update came a lot sooner than what I expected. All of us that have purchased through Marsté should have gotten this email today. Not only did we get an email, but we also got a video apology from Marlena herself. But in the email, it does also just kind of coincide with what the video is saying as well. But I received mine on August 5th around 7:20 p.m. I'm just going to paraphrase what the email is saying. If you guys want to read this, I'll let you pause to read. Naturally, the email and video are both very apologetic. They are explaining a little bit on what's going on, because obviously everything is taking a lot longer than what they thought. Marlena is also highlighting the fact that she should have communicated sooner. It's just other things are also going on. So I think a lot of us are only upset simply because we haven't heard anything. Should we have still heard something sooner? Absolutely. However, she is doing something to make it up to us and also giving us another date. When are we going to be getting our palettes that we purchased back in January? We're looking at mid-October at the latest. I feel like I should highlight that it does say estimated for delivery. This could come sooner, but we also have heard this before, so it could possibly be later as well. There is also the point worth mentioning about quality, because Marlena is mentioning that she's a formulator and she wants to take the extra time to get your palette right. They might be seeing some sort of inconsistencies, so as the consumer, I appreciate them taking the time to do that. Again, Marlena is very apologetic, and she's also still offering the option to refund if you decide to do so. All you have to do is reach out to concierge@houseofmarsté.com. But in the event you don't mind waiting, she is offering a small token of gratitude with a full-size complimentary set of her favorite makeup brushes from Anissa Beauty that are going to be sent out immediately. And on top of that, she is also offering an additional eyeshadow palette of your choice delivered with your original order. It is acknowledged that it doesn't make up for the wait, but I hope it shows you how much your trusted Marsté means, and we're going to have more updates coming soon. Sincerely, Marlene Estelle. What do I have to say about this? I mean, I'm going to be waiting because I cannot wait for this launch, and I do feel confident that the quality is going to be worth the wait. I don't mind a pre-sale. I don't mind waiting. All we want to know is updates throughout the process. Good on you, Marlena and Marsté, as always, but I just really hope we don't have to wait till mid-October.
So this TikTok is from Britt Clark. She used to do a lot of live streams on YouTube. I think she's more active on TikTok right now. And she asked me had a code with Marsté, and she did buy these palettes. And I, of course, didn't then because I knew I wasn't going to be able to receive them. And she got this message that you just heard from Marsté saying that the palettes have been even more delayed, and they're now due to be like sent out the latest October. From someone who, again, I own an indie brand, and I don't want to be like, I own an indie brand, but I do know how it is to deal with delays. I have something that is coming out hopefully in September. It was supposed to come out in freaking June, but here we are. It was supposed to come out in June, then it got delayed. I was hoping for August, but now it's looking like it's going to be September. Listen, it is what it is. I know what it's like to deal with delays. Like sometimes shit hits the fan and you just can't fix it. And that's why I've never liked pre-orders, because there is so many ways that things can go wrong and you can have delays. Because imagine if I sold you a pre-order for a palette for June and May, and then it's being released in September. You would have been like, what are you doing? I would have been like, what am I doing? So with pre-orders, I only think the only way I like pre-orders is the way that I know Adept has done it, and I know other brands have done it too, when the product is already shipped. The product is already shipped and it's due to come in at this time, and you can secure a copy right now. I don't love that either, but I know myself, I did that for, was that a Black Friday? I think it was, pretty sure it was the release of Galactic Visitor, my first palette. I was supposed to release it on Black Friday. It got a week delayed. So I released it on Black Friday, and I told people this is a pre-sale that is about a week because it had to clear customs. Because it gave people the opportunity to purchase things on the Black Friday sale, buy the palette at the same time, and don't have to pay for shipping twice, basically. Just that you have to wait a week extra for it to be sent out. I don't like when people do pre-orders for things that are not done. And that's what I think about this Marsté thing. These clearly were not done in production when the pre-order started. I am going to assume that they were going into production. Something happened either with the batch samples. The batch samples, first you get the samples. The samples are just somebody, blending in a lab, making formulas, and then you're like working with them to get the formula right. Then you're doing batch samples, which is basically you're doing like a full production sample. This is how it's going to be in a full production. We're no longer mixing in little beakers in a like testing lab. Now we're doing it with, how it's going to be when we do the big batch, a batch sample. And then you approve that because sometimes there can be differences there. And I am assuming that something happened between the sample and the batch sample, or something went wrong in big production and they had to redo it. And this is the problem then, because then they ended up with delays. Also, if you are a small brand, which again, Marsté is a smaller brand, and this is what's happened to me as well with delays. Sometimes labs or factories, they're working with so many brands, and any brand that says they have their own lab is 95% of the time lying to you. Because most brands do not have their own lab. I know ColourPop does. Actually, Makeup Revolution does, fun fact. But most brands just do not. They work with different labs. They have their own formulas, but they don't have their own factory. There's just no need. So I think with Marsté, they probably had a problem somewhere in the sampling going to the batches, or they had a problem with the batch and they had to redo it, or maybe some other brands had to go before them and their date got pushed in the future. The thing is that they jumped the gun on the pre-order. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they needed cash flow for the business. Sometimes brands that are do not have as much liquid might need to do a pre-sale to be able to fund the rest of the production. When you start a production, usually you pay 50% down deposit on the things that you're producing when the big production starts, when they start producing the big batch, and then you end up paying the other 50% when they are finished, which usually takes a couple of weeks. It can take somewhere between 2 to 6 weeks depending on how many you're making and the process and all of that. And sometimes they will do a pre-sale to almost crowdsource the last 50% to be able to pay off the factory and get them on their way. This might have been the case, and then something happened with production and they were able to, they had to redo it. I'm just saying that there are so many things that can go wrong with the pre-sale, and this launch has pretty much shown us all of them. Because also at this point, there is no newness factor to these palettes once they hit the market. We've known about these for so long. A big part of marketing is actually releasing something new. And even though nobody has seen or touched these palettes, they don't feel new anymore. And that's also a risk you run with doing a pre-sale, that once you actually have the product in stock in your warehouse or in your home or where you're shipping from, people no longer feel like it's a new product because they've known about it in their head. The mind is playing tricks on us. So I feel bad for Marsté, but I'm also like, girl, what are you doing? I hope this is not like a PSA, but more like a reminder of why pre-sales just rarely are a good idea. With that being said, let's talk about some makeup news as well. The first one I want to talk about is actually, I don't have any of the things here with me, but Gourmande Girls released 2 new palettes. This is the Thunderstruck and the Pandemonium palette. This is the Apocalypse collection. I do not have the single shadows with me, but I do have the palettes, and I did post a video doing a look with one with each palette, because I looked at these and I'm like, dang, these are so pretty. So if you're interested in these palettes, definitely check that video out. They are available now. You can use my discount code Angeshka. I just think they're absolutely beautiful and such fun palettes, and I really like the theming around them as well. I also did a video on the new Nomad Cosmetics Australian's Outback Adventure. I think that's what it's called. The new travel-inspired palette that Nomad released. They had a palette, 2 blush palettes, and lipsticks, and I'm wearing one of the lipsticks today, liquid lipsticks. I did a video on this just before I left for my vacation, and I think this collection is really beautiful. I think my favorites are the blush palettes because they're so fun. The eyeshadow palette is really interesting too. I really want to do another look. The lipsticks are not my absolute favorite. I think the main reason is because I think I need my liquid lipsticks to be either more blurry than this or more opaque than this. I feel like this is a little bit hard for me to make them opaque, just my personal preference, but that again is my personal preference, how I like to do my liquid lipsticks. But this collection is also available, and you can use my discount code Angeshka with Nomad as well and get some money off. Was there any other indie brands that released during this time? I feel like I might have missed some. Oh, Blend Money is re-releasing Lure. I think this is stunning. Lure is one of my favorite palettes from the brand. People are asking me, I get several comments a week, where is your Blend Money video? So I don't know for what reason. Me and Maggie has been laughing about this. I feel like my packages from Blend Money are cursed. It's stuck somewhere. It still sets it on its way to me, but I don't know why it hasn't reached me yet. I don't know what's going on. I think in the future, I'm just going to purchase my palettes myself from Monolith, because something is just cursed between me and Blend Money, her sending PR packages to me. If the package reaches me, I'll make a video. Otherwise, I'll purchase them myself from Monolith. But if you're wondering, it's not that I'm ignoring them. I just haven't got my package. Really love the way how this new Lure is looking. I think this Lure was always one of my favorite palettes from the brand. This one is even better. I think it looks absolutely delicious. You can use my code Angeshka with Blend Money as well. I really want to do a full Blend Money video on just where the brand is now, the products that they have. And I think I might have to do a little bit of a Monolith order because of that. But I think this one looks stunning. Ooh, Adept Cosmetics released a, what is this one actually called? Back to the 80s? I think that's what it's called. It's really colorful and really cool, and I was born in 84. So I did see parts of the 80s, and I will say this this color scheme feels very much like what I remember from the 80s, with the like the very saturated purples and the pop of like dark bright pink and a little bit of like green. It's very 80s. I do really enjoy the theming. I've never seen a theming like this before. I think they did a great job with the theming. I don't know if I need this one, again, because I have palettes like this, but I still think the color story and the theming is great. I love a blue and pink palette. So overall, I think it's really pretty. At this point, because I am doing less videos, I'm trying to not overwhelm myself with things, because I don't want to feel stressed being like, oh my God, I never did a video on that, or oh my God, I didn't have time to get to that. I don't want to feel that. So I feel like 2026 has been me finding my new normal. Like, what is a amount of makeup that I can bring into my life and still enjoy? Because I don't want to overwhelm myself, because I definitely was overwhelmed in the US the last year because I got so much PR, and PR that I also didn't I didn't accept it. It just kind of showed up. So I right now I'm trying to have like a little palette cleanse, pun intended, just seeing like what is a reasonable amount for me where I am now with makeup reviewing. Ooh, of course, Patrick Ta also released his contour pens. I'm telling you, everybody's releasing these kind of slim contour pens. I think this is such a new and better way of doing contour, in contrast to how contour was sold in 2015, 16, 17, where they had those big contour palettes that was more like made for makeup artists, because like we didn't need all of these shades. Just selling one in a cream pen like this is such a smarter way to sell contours. And I don't do contours. I don't always love how contour looks on me. I think sometimes it just, maybe I'm not talented enough. I just feel like sometimes it looks a little dirty on me, and I almost think it makes me look too angular. So contour is something that like every now and then I dabble in it, but it's not my favorite step, the way that some people feel about eyeshadow or highlighter or whatever different thing. But for me, contour is like my least favorite makeup product probably. So for me, I don't need any of this, but I totally understand who it is for, and I like this format with the single color in a slim stick much better than what we had before. Oh my God, I totally forgot we need to talk about MIKAYLA and her brand POV Beauty coming to Sephora. I think this was like the least surprising thing ever. Like, why are we surprised about this? The brand has released, is it 3 things, and all of it sold out instantly? Clearly, brands are looking into such a like, I don't want to say even popular, but a like an influencer that gets as much hype and as much attention as MIKAYLA does. When she has a brand that keeps selling out, of course all of the retailers are looking into selling her. Is Sephora better than Ulta? I don't know. But also, I think sometimes people forget Sephora is a French brand, and if you're in Sephora, it's much easier to branch out to different locations such as the EU or the UK or even Asia. And I think with Ulta, like Ulta is only in North America, and I feel sometimes a lot of people forget that, like when it says like Ulta exclusive, it only means in the US. Like we get it elsewhere. So if you're looking for like global domination, I definitely think that Sephora is a good choice. I've never tried POV Beauty. I am not like a skincare fiend. I just kind of use what I use. But I'm not surprised to see POV Beauty launch at Sephora, and I'm wondering how this will do at Sephora at launch in comparison to, like, you know, the launch of Rhode, for example. When is this launching? September 3rd, so pretty soon. I'm interested to see how this will be perceived, how it will sell on Sephora. I'm gonna keep my eye on it. Another thing that is launching at Sephora, and I find it very interesting because I am like, we're seeing a little bit more of eyeshadow palettes release in mainstream again, and I'm just like, is this the return of the eyeshadow palette? I wouldn't be sad. But this one, this is the Vanngo Timeless Taupes. Sure, Jan. I love a matte eyeshadow palette, but what on earth? They're like, you don't get to tell me that all of these shades were needed. I just don't. I get, listen, I get a good gradient. I love a good gradient, but this is just, I mean, did this need to be this big? I don't really understand. It says a core essential eyeshadow palette with 20 velvety smooth matte shades in neutral and warm tones for endless and classic looks. Endless? I need you to calm down, okay? Endless. I wanted to show you, there's a reel that I saw and he held up the palette and I'm like, dang, those are a lot of because in this lighting, I feel like you even more can see that like some of those look identical, and I just do not see a world where most of us, you know, makeup enthusiasts and not makeup artists will not apply these on the eyes and be like, oh, what's the difference? So I always, when I see palettes like this, I'm always like, I don't understand, but listen, some people are going to be so excited about this. We also saw a new eyeshadow palette from Natasha. Denona. This is the, I think I need a cool. I need a break. Like, how many palettes like this are we going to be releasing until somebody says, it's that like the Office joke, tell me the difference between these palettes. Like, they're the same. I get it, but I also am like, isn't this what you tried to do with some of the other palettes that you had? I refuse to be excited about something like this. I need an innovation. I need a new concept. I need new ideas. I need creativity back. Like, girl, no, I can't do it. I don't get it. What I will say though, did you see the new collection that's coming from Tate McRae? I think this is the first collection that's been like revealed after they had their whole, you know, bankruptcy scare. This is the Backstage Artistry collection. So there are two nudie quads, and then there's one with a pop of like a jade green, and then there's one that looks super cool. It's a yellow, a purple, a pink, and like a blurple metallic. Looks absolutely beautiful. And then there are brow gels, and some of them are very interesting, like artistry colors. I feel like the bleached or the lighter brows have started to kind of come back. Do you remember the brow gels that Kat Von D used to have? They had like all kinds of colors, or the brow pomades, and people loved them. And I'm wondering if this could be a renaissance of those. Listen, nothing makes me more happy than to see, again, you remember the cool palette I just showed you, to see some kind of like creativity and just whimsy come into makeup. Because again, whimsy is just having this absolute frenzy on social media. People want whimsy in their life, and like that's what this is. This is whimsy in makeup, and I really hope we get to see more of that, because you cannot hold up a beige sparkly shadow and call it whimsy. I'm not buying it. Louis Vuitton has not left the we are out of your price range train, and they are not releasing this fall collection. I mean, the packaging looks beautiful, the makeup looks very, I mean, we can all say it together, boring. I do love that they did different of the logo packaging on the outside with the beige and the white and the black and the red. That's all fine and dandy, but I've heard that these are like ridiculously expensive, and I'm not paying hundreds of dollars for this. I'm not. If I'm gonna spend that much money at Louis Vuitton, at least give me like a card case or like a calendar or a keychain even, because like what? I'm not, no. The palettes are $340 each. $340. That's crazy. $340 for a quad with the monogram. I need you all to calm down. We're not paying that. That's stupid. We've also heard some talks in the corridors that Lindsay Lohan is releasing a skincare brand that's called Linlo. We all know her glow up was the facelift, right? And she looks great. Listen, everybody do whatever they feel like they need to do. I'm never going to tell a woman what she can and cannot do. But you cannot have a glow up with the facelift and then be like, look at my skincare line. I'm very confused about that whole thing. And also, and I don't even know who this person is, and I feel bad, but I also am like, who's this person? This is Tate McRae. She is apparently launching her own makeup brand. It's called Tate by Tate McRae. They failed like a trademark for a beauty brand on the 2nd of July. So they're not going to launch anything for at least a year unless they're absolutely already in development. I have no idea about that. I wouldn't launch a trademark that late into the process. But listen, everybody Everybody does what they need to do. I don't even know who this is. Oh, this is the girl that did the Neutrogena ad where she said she was using skincare, but clearly she wasn't. Did you see that one? That was bananas. If you need a good laugh, you go and look at the Tate McRae Neutrogena ad. I can't believe they approved that. I can't believe Neutrogena saw them. They're like, yeah, that's great. Let's send that out into the world. Okay, a couple of rapid fire releases, and then I want to talk about some fragrances. Marc Jacobs is coming out with a concealer. I think this is a really smart release for them to just keep releasing products. Now that they launched the brand, they kind of keep the momentum going and release 1 or 2 products per, like, you know, quarter maybe, to keep the brand going. And a concealer is a very smart thing. The thing I'm showing you here is not all the shades. It is going to be quite a few different shades. It's 40 shades, and it is coming, well, actually it might already have been released. $36. It's not a horrible price for a Marc Jacobs concealer. I feel like that price is pretty decent for like a Marc Jacobs price range. Colourpop has released their Jelly Glow Lip and Cheek Tint. These are available on TikTok. I'm sure they're gonna have them on the website too. I think a lot of brands have seen the success that some brands have had on TikTok and want to try it, you know, throw their hat in the ring. These look very interesting, but also I wonder what kind of formula this is going to be. If they're going to be like that, like glowy jelly greasy Vaseline on the cheeks. It isn't because you're looking at these look very, very glowy. I'm like, my oily skin just like, I don't know what to do with these. Bouncy jelly tint, jam-packed with juicy color and glossy glow. Glossy glow is making me feel like I'm like rethinking my life choices. I'm sure this is going to come to the website soon. You can always use my code Jessica at the Colourpop website and get some money off in case you're interested in that. Also, Wet n Wild is doing a collab with Hershey. I just saw this palette here. I gotta say, sometimes, as someone who has been reviewing makeup, I'm going on my 12th year now. I can look at a formula and I can be like, that's gonna be pretty good. I can look at this and I can tell you, that's probably gonna be pretty good. That looks like, it looks like a formula that's gonna be good. And I'm just saying that from like looking at it, but I wouldn't mind getting my hands on that because I feel like it just looks, I have an eye for this. Trust the process. And also, it seems like Milk Makeup is doing a little bit of an overhaul of the brand, and they are releasing a bunch of different things. And I think they are re-releasing their Color Cosmetics sticks. So they are doing lip and cheek cream blush sticks. It is a cream highlighter stick. That is the creamy matte like contour sticks and bronzer sticks, and then some kind of liner and lip color, and a lip and cheek blur sticks. Just a bunch of different Color Cosmetics and sticks. And I think they're just redoing their brand. Honestly, I think it was time for a little bit of an overhaul of the brand. Some of the packaging started to look a little bit stale, and some of the products have been on the market for a long time. And just like I said before in this episode, sometimes people do value new higher. It is what it is. It's just something that just happens in the brain. And I think a rehaul of the brand could make people like look at the brand and look at the counter again, because I do think that Milk has fallen behind a little bit. I think these products look really beautiful. I don't even know if Milk is sold here, but overall, I think it looks good, and I'm interested to see what people feel about these, if it's the same formula and just new packaging, or if they also overhauled some of the formulas and maybe made them a little bit more modern. Because I will say, we used to love those cream sticks, but they're a little bit thick with modern. I say modern as the sticks didn't come out like 5 years ago, but with the standards that we have today for cream sticks, they are a little bit thick and they could definitely be more sophisticated. Now let's talk about fragrances. I have a few things that I want to mention. One of them is actually the new Intense Perfume Mist by Sol de Janeiro. I'm still waiting for those cologne mists to come to Europe. I haven't seen them here. I keep looking for them. I'm very intrigued by them. Maybe they'll come the same time as these, but these are going to be formulated with a higher fragrance concentration with richer experience. So these are just going to be almost like leaning closer to an actual fragrance, like a perfume, not a perfume, but like they're gonna have a little bit more of an intense, hopefully a better longevity than some of the other sprays. I actually think that's really smart of them to release a hybrid product like that. This one is gonna be the Cherryosa 74, 62, 59, and 91. And I don't even know if those are like the ones that are available. Yeah, this one says salted caramel pistachio. That's the original one, right? One of them is bergamot, ripe pineapple, plum, orange. That sounds like something I would like. So I'm intrigued. I could definitely see myself picking one of these up and seeing how I feel like the difference is. How close are these to like a normal like perfume or cologne? Like what's the longevity on it? I'm definitely interested. I wonder what the pricing is going to be. It says available August 23rd, which is really soon. I'm interested to seeing what the price point is going to be. Because what costs money, of course, in a fragrance is what smells good. We also have a fragrance from Ellis Brooklyn. Oh, Ellis Brooklyn is one of those brands that like I said, I was very overwhelmed with PR in the US, and I'm really happy to only get like maybe one PR package a week now, but I do miss Ellis Brooklyn PR because I love Ellis Brooklyn. This is Plum Tonic, and I do buy Ellis Brooklyn at Niche Perfumes, Niche Beauty. It's like a German site, I think. They ship, I think, to all the countries. And I've been buying some Ellis Brooklyn there, and I definitely will be picking this one up because this one is sparkling mandarin, plum nectar, acai, peony petals, iris flower, violet leaf. I hope violet is pretty, like it's there. I hope that that's one that we can smell. Amber crystals, cashmere woods, and sugared musks. I'm really hoping that this is going to be, because violet leaves can give a little bit of like, it's almost like a masculine flower. It's one of those flowers that if you ever find a flower in a more masculine coated scent, I say that, you know, everybody can wear anything. It's usually violet. So I hope that this one will be a fresh and fruity like fragrance. It opens up fresh and fruity and then layers into something woody and violetly. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if that's what I'm gonna get, but I think overall, Ellis Brooklyn usually has really good scents, and I'm excited to see what this is going to be. Then there are also some scents from Kilian, and these are going to be so expensive, but I kind of want them all, and it's just not good. I need to win the lottery or like sell a kidney or something, because these are 3 new fragrances by Kilian Paris, and this is Midnight Espresso, that is coffee, rum, chocolate, and bourbon vanilla. Kilian makes like boozy notes so well. I'm so excited. And then you have Piña Paraíso, which is pineapple, rum, coconut, bourbon, vanilla. Again, I am not always a coconut person, but I do like the smell of piña colada. It works like that. And then there is Sparkling Royale, and this one is my favorite. If I only get one, it will be this one. Rose, black currant key royale, roasted tonka bean, and mint. Shut the front door. I am so excited. I've actually been using, when I talked about my yearly favorites so far, I talked about the cucumber body spritz from Boy Smells. I've been mixing that one with the mango mint fragrance from, what is it called? From Commodity. And those two together give this like fresh spa, I can take on the hot summer day. It's like one of those fragrances that just fits my body when it's like 100 degrees outside. And now I'm just like, I've discovered how nice mint is in a fragrance. And this one, so black currant key royale, basically is black currant and sparkling wine, like champagne. I hope it's not too much rose when it dries down. I hope it's like a black currant, a minty black currant champagne accord. But I'm dying to try these. I'm dying to try these. $150 each. That is a lot. That's expensive. So we'll see about that. Honestly, I think that's gonna be it. I don't know how long this episode is gonna be, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. I feel like I talked a lot about different things. Let me know if there's anything that you're like, why didn't you talk about that? Like, we want to hear your thoughts about that. I'm always open for suggestions. I love when you tag me in things or send me DMs of stuff that you would like me to include in these episodes. I will definitely do another one in 2 weeks, not next week, because again, I do have my family here visiting and we're gonna be exploring Torino, but I definitely will do one in 2 weeks again. And let me know what you would like me to talk about then. If anything is happening, you want to hear my thoughts about things, I'm always honored when you do. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're having a good weekend, and I will see you next week for some new videos.